Sankhya and Vedanta. I shall give you a resume of the Sankhya philosophy through which we have been going. We, in this lecture, want to find where its defects are and where Vedanta comes in and supplements it. You must remember that according to Sankhya philosophy, nature is the cause of all these manifestations which we call thought, intellect, reason, love, hatred, touch, taste, and matter. Everything is from nature. This nature consists of three sorts of elements called sattva, rajas, and tamas. These are not qualities, but elements, the materials out of which the whole universe is evolved. In the beginning of a cycle, these remain in equilibrium, and when creation comes, they begin to combine and recombine and manifest as the universe. The first manifestation is what the Sankhya calls the Mahat or intelligence, and out of that comes consciousness. According to Sankhya, this is an element, tattva, and out of consciousness are evolved manas or mind, the organs of the senses, and the tanmatras, particles of sound, touch, etc. All the fine particles are evolved from consciousness, and out of these fine particles come the gross elements which we call matter. The tanmatras cannot be perceived, but when they become gross particles, we can feel and sense them. The chitta, in its threefold function of intelligence, consciousness, and mind, works and manufactures the forces called prana. You must at once get rid of the idea that prana is breath. Breath is one effect of prana. By prana are meant the nervous forces governing and moving the whole body, which also manifest themselves as thought. The foremost and most obvious manifestation of prana is the breathing motion. Prana acts upon air and not air upon it. Controlling the breathing motion is pranayama. Pranayama is practiced to get mastery over this motion. The end is not merely to control the breath or to make the lungs strong. That is dalsate, not pranayama. These pranas are the vital forces which manipulate the whole body, while they in their turn are manipulated by other organs in the body, which are called mind or internal organs. So far, so good. The psychology is very clear and most precise, and yet it is the oldest rational thought in the world. Wherever there is any philosophy or rational thought, it owes something or other to Kapila. Pythagoras learnt it in India and taught it in Greece. Later on, Plato got an inkling of it, and still later, the Gnostics carried the thought to Alexandria, and from there it came to Europe. So, wherever there is any attempt at psychology or philosophy, the great father of it is this man, Kapila. So far, we see that his psychology is wonderful, but we shall have to differ with him on some points as we go on. We find that the basic principle on which Kapila works is evolution. He makes one thing evolve out of another, because his very definition of causation is the cause reproduced in another form. And because the whole universe, so far as we see it, is progressive and evolving. We see clay in another form, we call it a pitcher. Clay was the cause and the pitcher the effect. Beyond this, we cannot have any idea of causation. Thus, this whole universe is evolved out of a material, out of Prakriti or nature. Therefore, the universe cannot be essentially different from its cause. According to Kapila, from undifferentiated nature to thought or intellect, not one of them is what he calls the enjoyer or enlightener. Just as is a lump of clay, so is a lump of mind. By itself, the mind has no light, but we see it reasons. Therefore, there must be someone behind it, whose light is percolating through Mahat and consciousness, and subsequent modifications. And this is what Kapila calls the Purusha, the self of the Vedantin. According to Kapila, the Purusha is a simple entity, not a compound. He is immaterial, the only one who is immaterial, and all these various manifestations are material. I see a blackboard. First, the external instruments will bring that sensation to the nerve center, to the Indriya according to Kapila. From the center, it will go to the mind and make an impression. The mind will present it to the Buddhi, but Buddhi cannot act. The action comes, as it were, from the Purusha behind. These, so to speak, are all his servants, bringing the sensations to him, and he, as it were, gives the orders, reacts, is the enjoyer, the perceiver, the real one, the king on his throne, the self of man who is immaterial. Because he is immaterial, it necessarily follows that he must be infinite. He cannot have any limitation whatever. Each one of the Purushas is omnipresent. Each one of us is omnipresent. But we can act only through the Linga Sharira, the fine body. The mind, the self consciousness, the organs, and the vital forces compose the fine body or sheath. What in Christian philosophy is called the spiritual body of man. It is this body that gets salvation or punishment or heaven, that incarnates and reincarnates, because we see from the very beginning that the going and the coming of the Purusha or soul are impossible. Motion means going or coming, and what goes or comes from one place to another cannot be omnipresent. Thus far, we see from Kapila's psychology that the soul is infinite, and that the soul is the only thing which is not composed of nature. He is the only one that is outside of nature. But he has got bound by nature, apparently. Nature is around him, and he has identified himself with it. He thinks, I am the Linga Sharira, I am the gross matter, the gross body, and as such he enjoys pleasure and pain. But they do not really belong to him. They belong to this Linga Sharira or the fine body. The meditative state is called always the highest state by the yogi, when it is neither a passive nor an active state. In it you approach nearest to the Purusha. The soul has neither pleasure nor pain. It is the witness of everything, the eternal witness of all work, but it takes no fruits from any work. As the sun is the cause of sight of every eye, but is not itself affected by any defects in the eye, or as when a crystal has red or blue flowers placed before it, the crystal looks red or blue, and yet it is neither. So the soul is neither passive nor active, it is beyond both. The nearest way of expressing this state of the soul is that it is meditation. This is Sankhya philosophy. Next, Sankhya says that the manifestation of nature is for the soul. All combinations are for some third person. The combinations which you call nature, these constant changes are going on for the enjoyment of the soul, for its liberation, that it may gain all this experience from the lowest to the highest. When it has gained it, the soul finds it was never in nature, that it was entirely separate, that it is indestructible, that it cannot go and come, that going to heaven and being born again were in nature and not in the soul. Thus the soul becomes free. All nature is working for the enjoyment and experience of the soul. It is getting this experience in order to reach the goal, and that goal is freedom. But the souls are many according to the Sankhya philosophy. There is an infinite number of souls. The other conclusion of Kapila is that there is no God as the creator of the universe. Nature is quite sufficient by itself to account for everything. God is not necessary, says the Sankhya. The Vedanta says that the soul is in its nature existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. But these are not qualities of the soul. They are one, not three, the essence of the soul. And it agrees with the Sankhya in thinking that intelligence belongs to nature, inasmuch as it comes through nature. The Vedanta also shows that what is called intelligence is a compound. For instance, let us examine our perceptions. I see a blackboard. How does the knowledge come? What the German philosophers call the thing in itself of the blackboard is unknown. I can never know it. Let us call it X. The blackboard X acts on my mind, and the mind reacts. The mind is like a lake. Throw a stone in a lake, and a reactionary wave comes towards the stone. This wave is not like the stone at all. It is a wave. The blackboard X is like a stone which strikes the mind, and the mind throws up a wave towards it. And this wave is what we call the blackboard. I see you. You as reality are unknown and unknowable. You are X, and you act upon my mind. And the mind throws a wave in the direction from which the impact comes. And that wave is what I call Mr. or Mrs. So and so. There are two elements in the perception, one coming from outside and the other from inside. And the combination of these two, X plus mind, is our external universe. All knowledge is by reaction. In the case of a whale, It has been determined by calculation how long after its tail is struck, its mind reacts and the whale feels the pain. Similar is the case with internal perception. The real self within me is also unknown and unknowable. Let us call it Y. When I know myself as so and so, it is Y plus the mind. That Y strikes a blow on my mind. So our whole world is X plus mind external and Y plus mind internal. X and Y standing for the thing in itself behind the external and the internal worlds, respectively. According to Vedanta, the three fundamental factors of consciousness are I exist, I know, and I am blessed. The idea that I have no want, that I am restful, peaceful, that nothing can disturb me, which comes from time to time, is the central fact of our being, the basic principle of our life. And when it becomes limited and becomes a compound, it manifests itself as existence phenomenal, knowledge phenomenal, and love. Every man exists, and every man must know, and every man is mad for love. He cannot help loving. Through all existence, from the lowest to the highest, all must love. The why, the internal thing in itself, which combining with mind manufactures existence, knowledge, and love, is called by the Vedantists existence absolute, knowledge absolute, bliss absolute. That real existence is limitless, unmixed, uncombined, knows no change, is the free soul. When it gets mixed up, muddled up, as it were, with the mind, it becomes what we call individual existence. It is plant life, animal life, human life, just as universal space is cut off in a room, in a jar, and so on. And that real knowledge is not what we know, not intuition, nor reason, nor instinct. When that degenerates and is confused, we call it intuition. When it degenerates more, we call it reason. And when it degenerates still more, we call it instinct. That knowledge itself is vijnana, neither intuition, nor reason, nor instinct. The nearest expression for it is all knowingness. There is no limit to it, no combination in it. That bliss, when it gets clouded over, we call love, attraction for gross bodies or fine bodies, or for ideas. This is only a distorted manifestation of that blessedness. Absolute existence, absolute knowledge, and absolute blessedness are not qualities of the soul, but the essence. There is no difference between them and the soul. And the three are one. We see the one thing in three different aspects. They are beyond all relative knowledge. That eternal knowledge of the self percolating through the brain of man becomes his intuition, reason, and so on. Its manifestation varies according to the medium through which it shines. As soul, there is no difference between man and the lowest animal. Only the latter's brain is less developed, and the manifestation through it, which we call instinct, is very dull. In a man, the brain is much finer, so the manifestation is much clearer, and in the highest man, it becomes entirely clear. So with existence. The existence which we know, the limited sphere of existence, is simply a reflection of that real existence, which is the nature of the soul. So with bliss. That which we call love or attraction is but the rejection of the eternal blessedness of the self. With manifestation comes limitation, but the unmanifested, the essential nature of the soul, is unlimited. To that blessedness there is no limit. But in love there is limitation. I love you one day, I hate you the next. My love increases one day and decreases the next, because it is only a manifestation. The first point we will contend with Kapila is his idea of God. Just as the series of modifications of Prakriti, beginning with the individual intellect and ending with the individual body, require a Purusha behind as the ruler and governor, so in the cosmos, the universal intellect, the universal egoism, the universal mind, all universal fine and gross materials must have a ruler and governor. How will the cosmic series become complete without the universal Purusha behind them all as the ruler and governor? If you deny a universal Purusha behind the cosmic series, we deny your Purusha behind the individual series. If it be true that behind the series of graded, evolved individual manifestations, there stands one that is beyond them all, The Purusha who is not composed of matter. The very same logic will apply to the case of universal manifestations. This universal self, which is beyond the universal modifications of Prakriti, is what is called Ishvara, the supreme ruler, God. Now comes the more important point of difference. Can there be more than one Purusha? The Purusha, we have seen, is omnipresent and infinite. The omnipresent, the infinite, cannot be two. If there are two infinites, A and B, the infinite A would limit the infinite B, because the infinite B is not the infinite A, and the infinite A is not the infinite B. Difference in identity means exclusion, and exclusion means limitation. Therefore, A and B, limiting each other, cease to be infinites. Hence, there can be but one infinite, that is, one Purusha. Now we will take up our X and Y and show they are one. We have shown how what we call the external world is X plus mind, and the internal world Y plus mind. X and Y are both quantities unknown and unknowable. All difference is due to time, space, and causation. These are the constituent elements of the mind. No mentality is possible without them. You can never think without time. You can never imagine anything without space. And you can never have anything without causation. These are the forms of the mind. Take them away, and the mind itself does not exist. All difference is therefore due to the mind. According to Vedanta, it is the mind, its forms, that have limited X and Y apparently and made them appear as external and internal worlds. But X and Y, being both beyond the mind, are without difference and hence one. We cannot attribute any quality to them because qualities are born of the mind. That which is qualityless must be one. X is without qualities. It only takes qualities of the mind. So does Y. Therefore, these X and Y are one. The whole universe is one. There is only one self in the universe, only one existence, and that one existence, when it passes through the forms of time, space, and causation, is called by different names: buddhi, fine matter, gross matter, all mental and physical forms. Everything in the universe is that one, appearing in various forms. When a little part of it comes, as it were, into this network of time, space, and causation, it takes forms. Take off the network, and it is all one. Therefore, in the Advaita philosophy, the whole universe is all one in the self, which is called Brahman. That self, when it appears behind the universe, is called God. The same self, when it appears behind this little universe, the body, is the soul. This very soul, therefore, is the self in man. There is only one Purusha, the Brahman of the Vedanta. God and man, analyzed, are one in it. The universe is you yourself, the unbroken you. You are throughout the universe. In all hands you work, through all mouths you eat, through all nostrils you breathe, through all minds you think. The whole universe is you. The universe is your body. You are the universe, both formed and unformed. You are the soul of the universe and its body also. You are God. You are the angels. You are man. You are animals. You are the plants. You are the minerals. You are everything. The manifestation of everything is you. Whatever exists is you. You are the infinite. The infinite cannot be divided. It can have no parts, for each part would be infinite, and then the part would be identical with the whole, which is absurd. Therefore, the idea that you are Mr. So and so can never be true. It is a daydream. Know this and be free. This is the Advaita conclusion. I am neither the body, nor the organs, nor am I the mind. I am existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. I am He. This is true knowledge. All reason and intellect and everything else is ignorance. Where is knowledge for me? For I am knowledge itself. Where is life for me? For I am life itself. I am sure I live, for I am life, the one being, and nothing exists except through me, and in me, and as me. I am manifested through the elements, but I am the free one. Who seeks freedom? Nobody. If you think that you are bound, you remain bound. You make your own bondage. If you know that you are free, You are free this moment. This is knowledge, knowledge of freedom. Freedom is the goal of all nature.